Hi, I am Helen the Rooftop Knitter, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this hoodie in 2 needles. It has pockets at the front. It's a one sole pocket and has a hood as well. It is a very easy project, so we are going to start from top to down. We are going to need 500 grams of size 3 yarn. I'm going to be using double thread, so 2 threads at the same time, or you can easily replace it for a size 5 yarn. Also, 6mm and 7mm knitting needles for knitting circular, a crochet hook, a yarn needle, markers, and scissors. I have made this sample in order to calculate how many stitches I'm going to need for the neck, because this is a top-down job. So we're going to start from the neck and go down up the waist. Okay, these are 20 stitches. I made half of the rows in a 6mm needle, and the other 10 in 7mm needles. This will help me to know how loose or how tight I want the job. So I decided to make it a little bit looser because I think this is too tight. So I'm going to go for the 7mm needles. Let's measure it. It's 12 centimeters width. So probably I will go for 24 stitches for the back. And then let's calculate a formula to know how many stitches we are going to need. So I just decided to go for 24 stitches for the back. And then chests are always bumpier than backs, so I allow 2 more stitches. It's going to be 24 stitches for the back, 26 stitches for the chest, and half of these stitches for the front for each sleeve. And then these are the base stitches for the raglan style. We're going to make increases around these base stitches. So these are going to be 2, 2, 2, 2, and this will give me a total of 84 stitches for this size 10. If you want to make any other size, you can use this formula. So always calculate how many stitches you want for the front. N is the front, and then do the same amount of stitches minus 2 for the back, because backs are always flatter than chest. Always remember that, okay? Allow a couple of stitches more for the chest. And then the sleeves are going to be this number, divided by 2. I have chosen to work with 7mm needles then, as I said. And with the needles for circular knitting, I'm going to cast the 84 stitches I need for this size 10 hoodie. Here are the 84 stitches. So let's start shaping the neck then. What I'm going to do here, it's a split 13 and 13 to make it nicer, because since it's a hoodie, the cut is going to look nicer if I split the job here, and then the hoodie starts from here and up here. Okay, so let's do 13 stitches then. Let's do it together. It's in plain knitting, so it's going to be 1, 2, 3, until we do 13. Here we have 13 stitches, so next step is doing 1 increase. So it's yarning over to the front, knit, and here we have 1 increase. 1 more because are 2 stitches for the base of the raglan, then yarning over to the front for the other increase for the other side, and then 13 stitches for the sleeve. After completing the 13 stitches for the sleeve, let's do the increases for the other side of this sleeve, which is yarning over to the front for the first increase, then 2 knits, 1 and 2, then yarning over for the second increase, and 24 stitches for the back. After the 24 stitches, let's do the increases for this bit. So yarning over, 1 and 2 knits, yarning over again for the second increase, and now 13 stitches. After the 13 stitches for the second sleeve, let's do this last increase for the raglan style. So it's yarning over to the front, 2 knits, and last increase, yarning over to the front for the last increase, and finally these 13 stitches. Now I'm going to knit in a straight, not in circular. I won't join these 2 bits yet. So let's do the back of the job. The back of the job is just going to, we're just going to work the stitches as they come. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 until we get to the 13. This is just plain purling. And 13. Now here is the first increase. You see, we won't be doing purling like this through the front. It's going to be through the back to twist the stitches, and this way we won't leave a hole. You see, so two more stitches, the 2 base stitches for the raglan style. So this next increase, we're going to do the same, twisting through the back, not through here. It's going to be purling through the back. We just continue purling the stitches as they come, and every time we see any one of the increases, let's twist the stitches as we did. So see you at the end of the row. I will continue with the straight knitting for 4 more rows, doing the same. So let's do 13 stitches, then increase, 2 stitches, increase, 13, increase, and so forth. Okay, let's do 4 more rows in a straight knitting, and after that we're going to join it to knit circular. Always remember to do the increases around the 2 base stitches for the raglan style. So it's a good idea to put a marker so we remember where we have to do the increases. And keep in mind that every row we're going to have 1 increase each side. So I got 14 stitches now. So this is these are the 2 base stitches here. So yarning over to the front for the increase, 2 knits, and 1 more increase. You see, here are the twisted stitches. So let's continue this way in the front rows, and when we have to do the back ones, just let's twist the stitches Now that the 6 rows are done, let's start knitting circular, okay? So we won't stop. We won't be doing any purling anymore. It's going to be just plain knitting. So for that, it's always a good practice to put a marker. I'm going to put a marker in a different color than the raglan points, because it's just to identify the start and the end of the row. So we're going to start row number 7. This is the start of the row. So now let's knit as if nothing happened. Row number 7 is just completed. So let's pass the marker to start row number 8. And from now on, it's going to be only circular knitting. Okay, this first stitch, it's a bit hard. So plain knitting. And we will continue with the plain knitting from now on, because there is no purling anymore, as we said. The only variation is that we will have to twist the stitches through the front, because remember that we won't have any purling rows anymore, so we will have to do it when we are doing the knitting. It's basically the same, it's just adapted to do it through the front. Okay, here we go. No any increase, no any yarn over, because this row is only to twist the stitches. We won't be doing the knitting through here, we're going to be doing it through the back. Knitting through the back thread like this. Then the 2 base stitches, and this one as well, through the back thread like this. And then we just continue with the plain knitting. So from now on, it's only plain knitting and one row. The next one is going to be to do the additions to the sides. So 1 increase each side of the base stitches for the raglan cut. And the following row is going to be no increases, but twisting the stitches. To calculate how many centimeters are needed for the chest, I just grab any of these charts from the internet. So I want a size 10. And for the chest, I will need about 76 centimeters. So I will allow a little bit more because I want it loose. So far, this is what I've knitted. And this is exactly the middle. If you remember, I left a marker exactly at the middle of the chest. So I'm going to measure it. It's 22 centimeters, so that will give me 44 centimeters for the chest, half of the contour. So I think it's good enough. I will stop knitting now to join the sleeves and continue only with the body. For this raglan cut, I got about 20 centimeters, so I think it's okay. And let's start with the sleeves then. I'm going to complete this row to start exactly here at the beginning of the row, of the following row. Now let's start with the row that is going to split the job in body and sleeves. Okay, so this is the start of the row, so let's complete it until this bit for the raglan cut. Now here for the raglan cut, let's complete this bit, and here we're going to split one of the base raglan stitches for the sleeve and the other one for the body. So let's do this and this one. And now let's grab a yarn needle and a spare piece of yarn, any piece of yarn in a contrasting color. And now what we're going to do is picking up all the stitches to reserve it for later. We're going to complete the sleeves later. This is a final bit to pick up the stitches, as you can see. So one more stitch and half of the base stitches, so it's one to this side. And after that I just pull it and small knot here to make sure that all these stitches don't go anywhere and keep it safe. And now to join the two bits, the back and the front, I will put back this stitch to the left needle. And if you can see it, is the base stitch for this side matching up with the base stitch for this other side. What I'm going to do to join the whole body is knitting both together, so these two base stitches together in one. And after that just continue knitting as usual to complete the back. Look, it's joined already. So let's complete the plain knitting up here for the other sleeve. Now that I completed all the stitches for the back, let's do the same for the other sleeve. So last stitch for the back, and the first stitch of the base stitches for the raglan cut, just reserve it to the right, then yarn needle, and reserve all the stitches for the other sleeve as we did for the first one. Now I already pick up all the stitches for the other sleeve, and I will do the same for this side. So reserving this first stitch of the raglan cut as well. Small knot to reserve all these stitches for later. Then putting back this stitch to the left needle, so matching up again. This is the first stitch for this part of the raglan cut, and this one is the matching stitch for the other side. Knitting both together to join front and back of the job, and then just knitting straight the rest of the body. Now notice that from now on, all these stitches that are in my knitting needles are only for the body, because I put all the stitches for the sleeves apart in these strings. Okay, from now on, let's continue only with the body for now. Knitting in circular, so it's circular knitting from now on, and this one is still the start of the row. I will do few rows until starting with the front pocket. At 30 centimeters long for the front, I'm going to start with the front pocket. So for that, I counted the stitches. It's a total of 60 stitches for the front, 62. And I decided to reserve 16 for the pocket plus 4 stitches each side for the rib. So this is 8 for the pocket and 4 for the rib. So that's with a yarn needle. Let's reserve the stitches as well. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 for the rib. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I will keep the marker, or maybe not. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 16. Plus 4 for the rib, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now, let's do the same, pulling the string, small knot, and let's continue with the back. I will reserve all these stitches for the front pocket, which I'm going to work later. Once all the stitches for the front pocket are picked up, I'm going to work through the back and pick up stitches as well. So from here, from the back of the stitch, let's cast additional ones. So I'm going to have 1 stitch on top of the other one. So it's 2 stitches in 1. So next one, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 for the rib, then the 16 stitches for the middle of the pocket, plus the 4 stitches for the other rib. Once the 24 stitches, the alternative stitches are done through the back, let's continue with the rest of the body in just plain knitting. Also, it's a good idea to put back a marker at the middle of the job. And now let's continue planing with the plain knitting. At 20 centimeters long from the pocket up the waist, I'm going to start doing the front pocket, but I will leave these stitches for now. Let's reserve it, and I will continue with the front pocket. Here we have the 24 stitches for the front pocket. So now let's pick them up and recover them one by one. Once the 24 stitches are picked up, or any number of stitches you decided to start with, let's get rid of them. Let's get rid of this string. So pulling it, and let's start with the front pocket. So now make sure that we start like this with knitting, not purling. With a new ball of yarn, let's attach the new thread, small knot, maybe to the back, that way it won't be visible. And just plain knitting the whole row. These are 7mm needles, same as the rest of the body. Once the first row is done, so the following row is going to be 4 knits for the edges. So that's 2, 3, and 4. And after that, just purling. And before finishing the row, another 4 knits for the other edge. 4 stitches before completing the row. We do 4 knits for the edge. Now, the following row, let's start adding stitches to the side. Let's add 1 stitch here and 1 stitch here to have increases, and made the pocket this shape, like a cone and a trapezoid, if you wanna call it properly. So let's start. So it's always 1, 2, 3, and 4 knits for the edge. And now yarning over to the front to add 1 more stitch here after, straight after the edge, and knitting until reaching the other side. Now again, 4 rows before completing the row, yarning over to the front for 1 increase, and 4 knits. Now, this is the front row, and for the back row, we're going to do 4 knits. It's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And here we're going to twist this stitch, so we won't be purling like this, because we have to purl is the back row. Won't be like this, because if we purl this way, it would leave us a hole here. So let's twist the stitches. We are going to purl through the back like this, and that's it. It's twisted already. So let's complete all these purls. Now with the other side, let's do the same, and twisting this stitch, purling through the back to avoid having a hole there. And after that, 4 knits for the edge. Let's repeat this until we complete the same number of rows we did for the body. In my case, it's 35 rows. And once we have the 35 rows, or any rows you decide to do, we will join this bit of the pocket with this bit. So just as a summary, every row that it's through the front is going to be 4 knits, increase, all these stitches here at the middle, increase, and 4 knits. When we are through the back, it's 4 knits, twisting the stitch for the increase, purling, then twisting the increase for before the rib, and after that 4 knits for the edge. After 30 rows, I have 52 stitches now because of the increases to the sides. Look, the pocket is already shaped, so I'm going to continue the last 6 rows just straight without any increase. So let's do only plain knitting for this first row, and for the back it's going to be 4 knits for the rib, then purling, and 4 knits for the other rib. Let's do this for 6 rows then. Once the length of the pocket is done, I got 36 rows here. I'm going to match it up with the back. Okay. So I allow 1 more row here for the front, so it has a little bit of shape, won't be too flat. And there are 35 rows here. So what I'm going to do now is joining both together. I'm going to work both together. Since I got 52 stitches here, I'm going to split the job here and do only half. I'm going to start from the half, so there are 26 stitches here at the back, and I'm going to work both together. So with the thread of the back, because we are going to start with the rib here, let's do both together. So that's 1. Then it's going to be a 1 by 1 elastic rib. So this one is going to be purl. Next one is going to be 1 knit. Now 1 purl, and so forth until we fully join the pocket. Once the pocket is completely joined, this is how it looks. It's looking very beautiful already. So let's just continue in circles for the lower rib. We just continue with the rib here, which is just knits and purls. Let's complete maybe 10 to 12 rows of elastic rib, 1 by 1, and then let's close the whole job. At 5 centimeters long for the lower rib, I'm going to close the job. Now, I've changed the needles to 6mm ones to make it nicer, tighter, because I have been knitting with 7mm needles the whole body, but for the ribs, I think I'm going to use 6mm ones because it looks much nicer, and it's going to be tighter and more comfortable here in the ribs. Now let's close it then. Same method, 1, 2, and closing it up. One more stitch, first on top of the second one. And after this, to continue closing the stitches until we fully complete the whole row. For the last stitch, let's use a yarn needle. Then inserting the yarn needle through the back of the job, through here, in the very first stitch. Maybe let's grab this one. Then pulling, inserting the needle into the loop, pulling again, and then going back through to the back through the next stitch. And this will give us a very nice finish. And after this, let's do the weaving to disguise all the stitches and this last piece of yarn. Once we finish, we have to do the weaving as well for all the loose pieces of yarn. But for now, let's finish up this one. For the pockets, I'm going to close them a little bit, because you remember we had 4 rows of rib here with no decreases. So I'm going to attach a little bit the pocket to the body. Here we go. And let's do the same with the other side of the pocket as well. Now it's time to continue with the sleeves, and let's use the 7mm knitting needles again. And first of all, let's pick up all the stitches we reserved for later. Like this, one by one. Once all the stitches are picked up, let's get rid of the string and free the stitches. I ended up having 53 stitches for the sleeve. Now, with a new piece of yarn, from a new ball of yarn, let's attach it here. Small margin. Little knot. And now let's start with the sleeve. Notice that here there is a space, there's a spare space here. And let's fill it up then. So let's add 1 and 2 stitches. 55 stitches in total then. And of course, let's put a marker in the first stitch. So this way we are going to be able to count how many rows we are knitting, and to identify where is the start and the end of the row as well. So now let's complete 10 rows of plain knitting. In circular. After completing 10 rows for the sleeve, it's time to start with the decreases. So this one is the last stitch for this row, for row number 10, and this one is the first one of row number 11. So what we are going to do is joining these two together for one decrease. So this will be one decrease, okay? And now let's complete probably 7 more rows, and every 7 rows let's do one of these decreases. So it would be 7 rows with no increase or decrease, and on row number 8 let's do the same, one decrease in the same spot. At 37 centimeters long for the sleeve, from armpit to wrist, I'm going to start shaping the wrist. So now notice that here are the decreases, and I ended up having 48 stitches for the wrist. Let's start then. I already changed the needles for 6mm ones to make it tighter. I won't be using the 7mm ones anymore. And now, marker to mark the start of the row. And now, it's going to be one knit, and then 2 purls at the same time to make one decrease. Now, one knit and 2 purls at the same time, 1 and 2 purls. One knit and then 2 purls at the same time. We will continue like this with only one knit and 2 purls at the same time for a decrease until we finish this row. Once the first row is completed with all the decreases, let's continue with the second row with no decreases at all. So from now on, it's going to be just a normal elastic rib 1 by 1 until completing 6 to 7 centimeters long. At 7 centimeters long for the elastic rib, we're going to start to close it. So we finish up these 2 stitches. And for me, there were 14 rows. And I'm start closing it up. So it would be 1 and 2 stitches, and the first one on top of the second one. Then one more, and first one on top of the second one. One more, and first one on top of the second one. Let's continue this way until completely close the row, and see you here. Now that there is only one stitch left, let's cut the yarn And with a yarn needle, let's close the job. So now, let's insert the needle in this initial stitch through the back. Now into the loop, pulling, going back through the next stitch, and here we go. This will leave us a very nice finish, and the next step would be weaving. Now for the other sleeve, let's repeat all the steps we have done for this sleeve. From the very beginning, from the 10 rows of plain knitting, and then the decrease every seven rows, and finally shaping the wrist. Now that both sleeves are done, so here's one, and there's the other one. It's time to cast the stitches for the neck. So let's start with a new ball of yarn. And let's grab the 7mm needles again. Let's use the very first stitch here. Yarning over and pulling. Then second stitch. Maybe it's a good idea to make a small knot here, just in case. And now second stitch, third stitch, and so forth, until getting to this other side to go around the neck. After casting all the stitches for the neck, for the hoodie, the result is 82 stitches for me. You might have more or less stitches according to how many stitches you prefer to cast at the beginning. So from now on, we're going to knit not in circular, we're going to knit straight. I'm using these needles just because it's more comfortable. So the back of the job is going to be purling. So on top of these stitches, let's do the second row, purling all the stitches. And the next one is going to be knitting. So purling. I've just completed the back row in purl stitch. And now it's time to do the front. Always in straight, we are not knitting circular, huh? Just plain knitting. From now on, let's alternate knitting and purling until completing a reasonable height for the hoodie. At 33 centimeters long, or maybe 34 for the hood, I'm going to close it. So let's use the same method then. Just knit, and first on top of the second one. Knit, and closing one more. Let's repeat this until completely closing the hood. Once the hood is completely closed, let's join both sides, you see, through the back. So for that, I'm going to use a crochet hook. You can use a yarn needle as well, or your preferred method is the same. So matching up this stitch with the one in the opposite side with the slip stitch. Then next one, then next one, and so forth. So matching up this stitch with the one at the opposite side. And then slip stitch. Let's repeat this until we get here to close the hoodie. The last step after doing all the weaving to disguise the loose threads would be sewing around the hood to attach this string, and also sewing the applique at the front. You can use any applique you want, not precisely this one. You can find all the tutorials in my YouTube channel. Just choose any applique you like and put it on top, maybe here or here, any place you want to place it. This is the end of the tutorial. I hope you like it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, please, and see you next time. Bye.